For 40 years, he remembered every single name that walked through his door, every birthday, every job promotion, every heartbreak, every funeral. He never once wrote any of it down. He just cared enough to remember. So when his shop was about to close forever, the whole town remembered him back. Welcome back to MintStory English. Let's begin. In a small town called Millbrook, with a population of just over 200 people, there stood a tiny barbershop on Main Street called Hank's Cuts. For over 40 years, it had been run by a kind, weathered man named Hank Miller. Hank wasn't famous. He wasn't wealthy. He didn't own multiple shops or employ a large staff. It was just him, one barber chair, a small radio playing old country songs, and a simple wooden bench where customers waited their turn. But Hank had one remarkable gift. He remembered everyone, not just their faces, not just their usual haircut. He remembered their names, their children's names, their job troubles, their health struggles, their small victories, and their quiet heartbreaks. When young Tommy Baker came in for his very first haircut at age 5, terrified and crying in the barber chair, Hank calmly talked him through it, telling him stories about baseball until Tommy forgot to be scared. 15 years later, when Tommy came in wearing his high school graduation gown, Hank remembered that very first haircut like it was yesterday. When Mrs. Dawson's husband passed away unexpectedly, she brought her teenage son in for his monthly haircut, quietly grieving. Hank didn't say much that day. He simply cut the boy's hair a little slower than usual, asked gentle questions about his father, and let him talk as much or as little as he needed to. When Farmer Bill Coleman lost nearly his entire harvest during a terrible drought one year, Hank noticed him sitting unusually quiet in the chair. "Rough season, Bill?" he asked gently. Bill nodded, and for the next 30 minutes, Hank simply listened, offering quiet encouragement, never charging him for that visit. Year after year, decade after decade, Hank's small shop became more than just a place for haircuts. It became the heartbeat of Millbrook, a place where people came not just to look better, but to feel heard, remembered, and valued. But small towns change slowly and sometimes painfully. Over the years, a large chain hair salon opened up just 20 minutes away in the bigger neighboring town, offering faster service and slightly cheaper prices. Slowly, some of Hank's younger customers began drifting toward the convenience of the larger chain. Hank's income, which had always been modest, began shrinking even further. By the time Hank turned 68 years old, his small shop was barely covering its expenses. His old shop building needed serious repairs. A leaking roof, outdated wiring, a cracked front window that let in the winter cold. He didn't have the money to fix any of it. One quiet afternoon, Hank sat alone in his shop after closing, staring at a stack of unpaid bills on his counter. He had quietly decided, without telling anyone yet, that it might finally be time to close Hank's Cuts for good. But word travels fast in a small town. Somehow, within just a few days, nearly everyone in Millbrook had heard the news, and something remarkable began happening. Tommy Baker, now a grown man working as a local contractor, showed up unannounced one morning with a group of friends, tools in hand. "Heard your roof's been giving you trouble, Hank," he said simply. "We're not leaving until it's fixed." Mrs. Dawson, whose son had grown into a successful young electrician, sent him over the very same week to completely rewire the shop's outdated electrical system, refusing any payment. "You gave my son more comfort during the hardest year of our lives than you'll ever know," she told Hank quietly. "This is the least we can do." Farmer Bill Coleman, whose harvests had finally recovered over the years, brought in fresh produce every single week, insisting Hank take it home for free. "The same way you never charged me that one hard season." Slowly, over the following month, nearly the entire town contributed something. A new front window, fresh paint, a small savings fund quietly gathered by longtime customers to help cover Hank's expenses during the slow winter months. Hank, overwhelmed and often moved to tears, tried repeatedly to refuse their help. "You don't have to do this," he told them again and again. But the townspeople had a simple, unified response. "You never once treated any of us like just another customer," they said. "You remembered us, all of us, for 40 years. Now it's our turn to remember you." On the day the shop reopened, freshly repaired and beautifully restored, nearly the entire town gathered outside Hank's Cuts for a small, heartfelt celebration. Someone had painted a new wooden sign above the door, reading simply, "Hank's Cuts. Est. Over 40 years of remembering Millbrook." Hank stood quietly at the entrance, overwhelmed with emotion, looking out at the familiar faces of the community he had served and truly known for 4 decades. A local news reporter, hearing about the town's remarkable gesture, visited Millbrook to interview Hank for a small feature story. "What's your secret?" the reporter asked him. "How did you build such deep loyalty in your customers without ever using marketing, discounts, or fancy business strategies?" Hank thought for a long moment before answering, his voice quiet but sincere. "I never really thought of them as customers," he said. "I thought of them as neighbors, as people. When someone sits in my chair, I'm not just cutting their hair. I'm spending 15 minutes of their life with them. So I figured the least I could do was actually pay attention, remember their name, remember what matters to them. It's a small thing, really, but I guess small things add up over 40 years. The story of Hank's barbershop slowly spread beyond Millbrook, inspiring small business owners in nearby towns to reconsider what truly built lasting loyalty. Not simply lower prices or faster service, but genuine, consistent human connection. Hank continued cutting hair at Hank's Cuts for several more years, remembering every new name that walked through his door, just as he always had, right up until the day he finally retired, surrounded fittingly by the very community that had never forgotten him. In a world that often moves quickly and transactionally, simply remembering someone's name, their story, and their struggles can build a kind of loyalty and love that no amount of money or convenience can ever replace. Small, consistent acts of genuine care add up to something far greater than we often realize. I hope today's story reminded you of the quiet power of truly knowing the people around you. If it did, please like this video and subscribe to MintStory English. New stories come every week, so don't miss the next one. Until then, take a moment to truly learn someone's name today. See you in the next story.